The stars hung in the vast emptiness like distant candles, flickering in an endless night. Earth's place in the galaxy was small, barely noticeable to the ancient beings who governed the stars. The Council of Planets had existed for eons, a coalition of powerful species who believed their rule was eternal and their dominance unquestionable. But something strange had been happening for the past few years. A signal was sent from a planet long dismissed as insignificant, Earth, and with it humanity, the species that should not have been capable of even surviving in the cold dark of space, had begun to make waves across the galaxy. Ships, unlike anything seen before, began appearing in sectors where no one had expected it. Human technology was crude by galactic standards, but it had something else, a spark, something that set it apart from the others. The Council watched with growing unease as Earth's reach spread farther and farther. They watched as the humans built their ships and launched their first missions into the stars. They were slow and clumsy at first, but they were persistent. Soon their ships began to form strange patterns around nearby planets. Communication was intercepted. Ships went missing. Whole colonies began to report unexpected events. Some called it sabotage, some said it was the work of space pirates, but none could deny it. Humans were making waves in the council chambers. The debate grew heated. Their fleets had never encountered a species with such tenacity, a species that could evolve faster than any one of them had anticipated. How had this happened? How had they suddenly risen from their primitive origins to challenge the established order? One by one, the species that made up the council raised their concerns. The Drakash argued that humanity must be eradicated before they could do any more damage. The Velrin suggested that Earth be brought into submission and integrated into the greater galactic fold, while the Xaltor simply stated that the humans were nothing more than a dangerous anomaly, a threat that could be destroyed with the right application of force. The decision was made in the cold silence of a council room that had seen countless decisions over the centuries. Earth would be dealt with. A fleet was dispatched with orders to subjugate the planet, to show humanity their place in the galaxy, to teach them that their survival had only been an accident and that their time had come to an end on Earth. The news hit like a tidal wave. Commander Leela West stood in a war room staring at the holographic display as the Council's fleet was dispatched toward them with their numbers and firepower. It was clear that this would be no easy battle, but something deep inside her told her that Earth wasn't done yet, not by a long shot. Leela had spent years studying humanity's ability to adapt, to overcome obstacles, to fight when the odds were impossible, and she knew what had to be done in a world that had always been defined by chaos. Humans were perhaps the most chaotic force of all, and it was that very nature that might be their salvation. The world began to stir as word spread that the fight was coming, not just for Earth, but for the very idea of survival itself. Lila's voice echoed through every communication channel as she called humanity to arms, to rise together, to prove that they were more than just survivors. They were fighters. They would face this challenge as one, and they would win no matter the cost. Humanity had no choice but to stand and fight. The stars above had just become their battleground, and the Council had no idea what was about to hit them. The first strike came without warning. The alien ships descended like shadows from the void, their vast dark forms blotting out the stars, and the air around Earth hummed with tension as humanity realized the true scale of the threat they faced. For days, the planet held its breath as the Council's fleet moved into position in orbit. The human government scrambled to coordinate defense efforts, but their systems were outdated, their weapons primitive. Compared to the overwhelming power of the alien forces, nothing on Earth had prepared them for this. Leela stood in the center of the war room, her gaze fixed on the holographic map of the Earth's orbital space. The alien ships were massive, each one capable of wiping out entire cities with a single strike, and the scale of their technology was beyond anything humanity had ever imagined. She clenched her fists as she surveyed the data. The planet had a few defense systems scattered around, but they were no match for the superior firepower of the Council's fleet. It seemed like a hopeless cause. But then something else flickered on the screen, something unexpected. A small human vessel, appeared on the edge of the map, moving quickly, dodging between asteroids and debris. Its markings were unmistakable. A civilian craft, one of the private ships that had been converted for combat, a small but nimble vessel capable of causing chaos in the right hands. It was the first sign of humanity's true strength, their greatest weapon not in their firepower, but in their sheer unwillingness to give up against impossible odds. The ship was not alone. Soon others began to appear, ships from all over the world, hastily repurposed and patched together. With whatever technology they could scavenge, they moved into formation. Just as the Council fleet advanced, a new kind of strategy emerging from the chaos. Earth's resistance wasn't about matching the enemy's strength. It was about exploiting their weaknesses. Using stealth and cunning, the humans began to strike the Council's ships one by one. They targeted weak points found in the alien vessels, from damage sustained in previous engagements or hidden vulnerabilities in their systems that no one had thought to consider. They weren't fighting on equal terms. They were outwitting their enemies. They used the environment of space itself against the aliens, launching coordinated attacks using asteroids, debris, and even the gravitational pull of nearby moons to mask their movements. For every ship destroyed, the humans adapted even faster. Jax Carter, a former hacker turned fighter, had been one of the first to see the potential of Earth's scattered resources. He had spent years learning the alien codes and deciphering their technology, and now his knowledge was invaluable. Under his leadership, a team of engineers and tacticians began to reverse engineer the alien weapon systems they had captured and adapt them for Earth's use. In mere days, they had crafted makeshift weapons capable of inflicting serious damage to the alien fleet. With every new weapon tested, the humans grew bolder and their attacks more effective. It wasn't long before the Council began to take notice. The reports of destruction began to filter back into the Council chambers, and they were stunned at the results. No one had expected humans to be capable of this kind of ingenuity. They were not just fighting, they were evolving on the fly, pushing the limits of what anyone thought possible. With every passing day, the resistance grew stronger, and soon the Council found itself in a dilemma. They had underestimated humanity's ability to adapt, and they couldn't help but wonder if they had made the wrong decision in labeling Earth as a threat after all. The Council's fury knew no bounds. Reports of humanity's successes echoed through their command centers, each victory making it harder for them to ignore the growing threat of Earth's resistance. The humans were not fighting the way the Council expected. They weren't attacking with sheer numbers or advanced weapons, but with creativity and unpredictability. Their ability to adapt to every setback seemed to be their greatest strength, and the alien fleets were struggling to keep up. The Council had believed their forces were invincible, that no species could ever stand against their unified might. Yet humanity's resilience was breaking the myth of their supremacy, and for the first time in centuries, the Council was beginning to question its own infallibility. Underestimating humanity had been their fatal mistake, and now they were scrambling to make up for it. The Council decided that a stronger approach was needed. They could no longer afford to fight with conventional strategies. Their fleets were losing too many ships and resources. They had to end this quickly and decisively. They called for reinforcements from the most feared species in the galaxy, the Shera, a race of highly intelligent beings whose ships could move faster than light, and whose weapons were capable of annihilating entire fleets with a single strike. The Shera were not just warriors, they were hunters, ruthless and efficient in battle, and now they were being sent to destroy the humans once and for all. The Council believed that if the Shera couldn't eliminate the human threat, nothing would, but they were unaware that the humans were already planning their next move. As the Shera ships descended toward Earth's orbit, the human resistance was ready. Their fleet had grown in size and strength. With every victory, they had gained new allies, and their technologies had been rapidly adapted to counter the alien threats. The humans had learned from every skirmish, every battle, and they had evolved in ways the Council had never anticipated. Commander Layla West gathered her team of top tacticians in the war room as the new threat loomed large on the horizon. They knew the Shera would be a force unlike anything they had ever faced, but Leela refused to believe they were unbeatable. She had spent weeks analyzing the Shera's movements and the tactics they used. She studied their weaknesses and their methods of communication. With Jax Carter leading the tech team, The humans had already begun to disrupt the Shera's advanced systems, exploiting flaws in their technology, and using their own weapons against them. The human fleet wasn't large enough to face the Shera head-on. But it didn't need to be. They didn't need to win in a conventional sense. They just needed to survive and buy enough time for the real strike to occur. The plan was risky, but humanity had no other choice. It relied on precision timing and an understanding of the Shera's weaknesses. The Resistance would launch an initial strike to distract the Shera fleets and lead them into a trap near a black hole's gravitational pull where their advanced navigation systems would be compromised. Once the Shera ships were close enough, Earth's forces would disable their weapons and send them careening into the black hole's event horizon. Their plan was simple: remove the Shera from the equation entirely. The human fleet moved into position, and the tension was palpable in every corner of Earth. The countdown began, and the fate of humanity rested on their ability to execute this audacious strike. As the first human ships engaged the Shera fleets, it quickly became clear that the enemy was underestimating them. Once more, they fought not just with weapons, but with a passion and desperation that could not be matched. In the chaos of battle, Lila's team pushed the Shera deeper into the trap. It was a high-stakes game, and Earth had placed everything on the line. But as the Shera fell into the gravitational pull of the black hole, humanity was about to make its most unexpected move. The Shera's defeat sent shockwaves through the galaxy. The Council had relied on them to end the human rebellion once and for all, but now they were lost to the depths of a black hole forever. The humans had proven something vital in their battle against the Shera. They weren't just survivors or clever underdogs. They were capable of taking on the galaxy's most advanced civilizations, and winning. The Council's position was becoming increasingly fragile. Its once impenetrable hold on the galaxy was crumbling, and cracks began to form within the Council itself. Not every member was eager to continue the war. Some of the lesser factions began to see the writing on the wall. The humans were not only fighting back, but thriving, and they feared the growing power of this chaotic species. While the Council debated its next move, another unexpected turn of events unfolded. The Shera had not acted alone in their mission to subjugate humanity. A faction of the Veldrin, an ally race known for their keen intelligence and advanced weaponry, had secretly been working with the Shera behind the scenes, plotting to secure more power for themselves. The Veldrin were now in a precarious position as they realized the full extent of the consequences of their treachery. They had underestimated Earth as well, and they feared what might happen when the human resistance turned its focus on them. The leader of the Veldrin, the calculating and ruthless Skorak, saw the writing on the wall. He knew the Council could not sustain its current position much longer. If they did not adapt, the human rebellion would dismantle everything the Council had built. Skorak had an idea. He would take a dangerous gamble and offer Earth something no one expected: an alliance. There was an unexpected twist to his proposal. The Veldrin were no strangers to subterfuge and manipulation, but they also saw potential in the humans as allies. They had realized that humanity's strength came from their unpredictability, their refusal to conform to the rigid structures that held the galaxy together. The Veldrin saw an opportunity to shift the balance of power and sought to make a deal that would benefit both sides. In a hidden meeting on a neutral planet far from the eyes of the Council, Skorak made his offer. He would give the humans vital intelligence on the Council's most secretive weapons and strategies in exchange for a promise of autonomy for the Veldrin. After the fall of the Council, the humans had already proven they could turn the tide of war with their unorthodox tactics, and now the Veldrin saw their potential as a key partner in reshaping the future of the galaxy. The humans were not blind to the Veldrin's history of manipulation, but Commander Layla West and her team understood the importance of the offer. They knew that the Veldrin were not to be trusted entirely, but they also recognized the opportunity to strike a blow at the heart of the Council if they played their cards right. With careful deliberation and a willingness to take risks, Layla and her advisors decided to accept the alliance. But with strict terms. Earth would use the intelligence provided to dismantle the Council's power base, but would never become subservient to any race again. The galaxy was changing, and humanity had no intention of being a cog in someone else's machine. In a daring move, Leela prepared to meet Skorak in person to finalize the alliance and in doing so she took humanity's fate into her own hands. Once more the humans were playing the Council's game, but now they were rewriting the rules. The alliance with the Vel'Rin set the galaxy on a course it could not turn back from. For the first time in the war, humanity was no longer fighting alone, and the strategic advantage gained from the Vel'Rin's intelligence proved invaluable. The Council had underestimated Earth's ability to form alliances and turn its enemies into uneasy allies. In the weeks following the agreement, Earth launched a series of high-impact strikes across key Council strongholds using the newly acquired knowledge of Council weapons and defense systems. The humans were able to target weaknesses they had never been able to exploit before. Council fleets were ambushed as human ships used their stealth and speed to disable them with precision, not brute force. It wasn't just military might that was being used. Humanity was now playing the political game as well through carefully orchestrated sabotage and strategic diplomacy. Earth's resistance expanded their network of allies. Many of the smaller factions within the galaxy began to question the Council's dominance and were swayed by the prospect of joining the growing rebellion. The idea of a galaxy without the Council's iron grip was now a possibility. The Council, meanwhile, was increasingly divided. Factions within the ruling body argued over how to deal with the threat of Earth's growing power. Some pushed for annihilation of humanity by any means necessary, while others suggested a more diplomatic approach. They were torn between continuing the war or trying to negotiate terms that would ensure their continued control over the galaxy. What no one expected was the sudden appearance of an ancient, seemingly neutral species. The Tzaltor. These ancient beings were known for their immense psychic abilities and their vast knowledge of galactic history. They had never involved themselves in galactic politics before, but the growing conflict had begun to draw their attention when the Tzaltor entered the fray. They did so in their own way. They called for a ceasefire between the humans and the Council, demanding that both sides present their cases and offer peace talks. Layla West, ever the strategist, saw the arrival of the Tzaltor as an opportunity to force the Council into a corner without firing a single shot. She knew that the Tzaltor had the power to sway entire systems with their influence, and if they supported Earth's cause, it would be a significant blow to the Council's authority. The Council, already fracturing, saw the Tzaltor's move as a challenge to their rule. At first, they attempted to dismiss the Tzaltor's demands for peace, assuming they could handle the situation with force, as they had always done. But the Tzaltor weren't ordinary diplomats. They used their psychic abilities to reach out to both sides. Witnessing the suffering caused by the war and sensing the untapped potential of humanity, it was then that the true depth of the Tzaltor's influence became clear. They did not just seek peace. They sought a new order where the Council's power would be diminished and the galaxy could be governed by more cooperative means. Seeing this shift, Leela knew that the time to strike had come. Earth had allies now, and their reach extended far beyond what the Council could control. A message was sent to the galaxy, a call to arms, not against the Council directly, but for a shift in power, for the creation of a new order where every species could live free from oppression. It was a bold move, one that could change everything for the galaxy. With the Tzaltor standing behind Earth's cause, the rebellion now had the legitimacy it had long lacked. The Council, blindsided by this sudden shift in power, now faced a difficult decision: negotiate with humanity and the galaxy's newly formed factions, or face an even greater uprising. They could no longer ignore the game had changed, and humanity had just moved its piece into checkmate. The galaxy had shifted irrevocably since the Tzaltor's intervention. The Council was no longer the unchallenged ruler of the stars. The very idea of a united galaxy under one ruling power had been shattered by humanity's resilience, and the alliances they had forged. Earth's resistance was no longer a rebellion. It was a movement, a symbol of change that resonated with the oppressed and the dissatisfied throughout the galaxy. With the support of the Vel'Rin and the Tzaltor, the rebellion gained momentum in a way that no one could have predicted. The Council's once mighty fleets were now spread thin, their forces overextended, and their command structure fractured. As battles raged on across the galaxy, the humans had moved from survival to strategic dominance. In every engagement, the Resistance adapted faster and with more ingenuity than the Council could counter, and Earth's forces weren't fighting alone. Now other factions rallied to their cause. Planets that had long been subjugated by the Council's rule and felt the weight of their oppression began to rise up in coordinated uprisings. The Council tried desperately to restore order, sending fleets to quash any sign of rebellion. But each time they arrived, they found themselves facing unexpected resistance. Some of their old allies refused to fight for them any longer, and the defectors within the Council grew in number and influence. No one could ignore the fact that humanity had become the centerpiece of a growing coalition that was threatening to unseat the old order. The Council's leadership was divided, and the factions within it were at odds with each other. As Commander Leela West watched this unfold from her command center, she knew that the final push to dismantle the Council's power would require one thing above all else: a decisive strike to cripple their leadership once again. Jax Carter and his team of tech experts would play a key role. Lila's plan was audacious. It was time to take the fight directly to the heart of the Council itself. The Council's central hub was located on a planet known as Sargon Prime, a massive fortress world protected by some of the galaxy's most advanced defense systems. For centuries, Sargon Prime had been the seat of power, the place where the leaders of the Council gathered to make decisions that shaped the fate of countless civilizations. It was heavily fortified and protected by layers of shields and automated defenses. But Leela knew it was not invincible. If the humans had learned anything in this war, it was that no fortress was truly impenetrable. The Resistance had already begun to infiltrate the outer rings of Sargon Prime's defenses and sabotage key systems. But now it was time to take the fight to the planet's core. At the center of Sargon Prime lay a colossal structure, a palace of sorts, where the Council's ruling body met in secret. It was here that the final decision on humanity's fate would be made. The planet was nearly impenetrable, but there was a way in. A series of underground tunnels designed for emergencies that had never been discovered or used by the Council. Now that the rebellion had cracked the outer defenses, Leela planned to infiltrate this network and strike directly at the Council's leadership. They would need to bypass countless security measures and avoid detection by elite squads of alien warriors. But if they succeeded, the heart of the Council would be destroyed in one swift blow. The Resistance gathered their forces, preparing for what would undoubtedly be the most dangerous mission they had ever faced. The Psaltor offered their psychic abilities to aid in the infiltration, while the Velrin supplied the necessary weapons and technology to breach the defenses. The time for a diplomatic solution was over. This was a war for survival, and the fate of the galaxy would be decided in the halls of the Council's fortress. Leela stood at the helm of the Resistance, her mind set on the task ahead. The mission was risky beyond measure, but the moment had arrived for Earth to claim its place in the galaxy as an equal force capable of reshaping the future. The Council's reign was coming to an end. The final assault on Sargon Prime began under the cover of darkness as the human fleet moved into position, the vastness of space offering them a rare moment of silence before the storm. Lila West's face was hard. Her eyes narrowed with focus as she watched the holographic display of the fortress planet. Every second counted. The infiltration team, led by Earth's best soldiers and augmented by Velrin technology and HFY psychic guidance, was ready. They had trained for this moment for months, honing every tactic, every move, until it was instinctive. They had no illusions. Their mission would be perilous, their chances slim, but failure was not an option. As the fleet moved into orbit, the first phase of the plan unfolded. Dozens of human ships launched decoys, creating a chaotic dance of light and movement to confuse the Council's automated defenses. The Resistance had learned well from their previous engagements. The Council's reliance on predictability was their greatest weakness. By shifting the focus of their attack, Earth's forces ensured that the enemy's attention would be diverted long enough for the ground team to penetrate the planet's defenses. Leela watched as the decoys deployed. Blinding flashes of light shot across the space around Sargon Prime, creating a web of confusion and disorientation. The enemy shields flared, their automated systems scrambling to lock onto targets. As the decoys performed their part, the infiltration team slipped through the outer defense rings, guided by the psychic abilities of the Xaltor, who helped them move unseen, their presence masked from the prying sensors of the Council's elite guards. The ground team touched down on Sargon Prime's surface in the dead of night, hidden beneath the shadows of towering metallic structures. The planet was a maze of corridors and heavily guarded gates, but they knew exactly where to go: the emergency tunnels. These tunnels were long forgotten by the Council, designed for an evacuation that had never come. Earth's resistance, aided by the intelligence of the Velarin, had mapped them out to perfection. But now came the hard part: navigating through the tunnels and into the heart of the Council's inner sanctum without detection. Inside the tunnels, it was eerily quiet. The walls hummed with the soft vibration of distant machinery, but the corridors were mostly abandoned. There was a weight to the silence, an oppressive sense that time itself was holding its breath. Lila led the team with steady determination, each member moving with practiced precision. Every sound was amplified, every corner a potential threat. They had learned not to trust anything in the darkness, but they also knew there was no turning back. After what felt like hours of careful maneuvering, they reached their destination, the heart of the Council's stronghold. The towering structure above them loomed like a prison, its high-tech barriers shimmering in the faint light of distant stars. Here, the most dangerous leaders of the Council were waiting. As the infiltration team breached the final set of barriers, a sudden alarm blared, sending a shockwave of panic through the group. They had been detected. The Council's elite guards were closing in on their position, faster than expected. Lila's heart raced, but her voice remained calm as she ordered the team forward. There was no time to waste. The team split, moving quickly to neutralize the guards before they could alert the rest of the fortress. But the alarm had already been sounded. The battle for the Council's leadership had begun in the shadows of Sargon Prime's most secure chambers. In that moment, Leela knew that Earth's destiny was being decided, not by fleets or armies, but by the courage of those who dared to fight in the face of overwhelming odds. They were not just fighting for survival. They were fighting for the future of the galaxy. And they would not be silenced. The final clash inside the heart of Sargon Prime was nothing short of chaos. Lila West's team, though outnumbered, fought with a fierce determination that could not be matched. The Council's elite guards, known for their unyielding discipline and advanced weaponry, were caught off guard by the ferocity of Earth's forces. But the element of surprise was quickly slipping away as reinforcements flooded in from every direction. Lila's mind raced as she moved through the corridors, her pulse pounding with every step. She had been in countless battles before, but this one felt different. This wasn't just about defeating an enemy. It was about reshaping the galaxy itself. Every move, every decision was a part of a greater mission: to end the Council's reign once and for all, and to ensure a new era of freedom for every species across the stars. As the ground team pressed forward, the walls shook with the force of incoming blasts. The facility's automated defenses, once dormant, had been activated, firing on all fronts. But Earth's soldiers had long ago adapted to these tactics. Jax Carter's team had already begun disabling key defense systems from within, while the Xaltor used their psychic abilities to warp the perceptions of the guards, causing confusion and chaos among them. It was a dance of deception and precision, Earth's forces against an entrenched and powerful enemy. Leela reached the Council's inner sanctum, their war room, the place where their most secretive plans were devised. The room was a cavernous cold chamber adorned with alien symbols and holographic displays. At the center stood the Council's leadership, gathered in their final meeting. They were desperate, realizing they had no way of winning. They had gambled everything on their ability to crush Earth, and now that gamble had failed. Standing before them was Korak, the Veldrin leader who had brokered the alliance with Earth. He had kept his word, helping to deliver the intelligence necessary to bring down the Council. But now he stood in a delicate position. His future would depend on how this conflict played out. "We have come for you." Layla's voice echoed through the chamber, steady and commanding. She could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on her. This was the endgame. The galaxy will no longer be ruled by fear. You've had your time, but it's over. The Council's leaders, once proud and untouchable, now stood in silence, knowing their fate was sealed. Some of them glared at Leela. Others seemed to shrink in the face of inevitable defeat. Skorak stepped forward, his voice calm but full of power. "They have won," he said, addressing the council, his tone colder than Leela had ever heard it. "And there is no turning back. It's time for a new order." The council's leadership, recognizing their inability to resist, made a final plea for mercy, but Leela's resolve never wavered. They had underestimated humanity's strength for far too long, and it was their time to face the consequences of their arrogance. The holograms that had once projected their authority flickered and died, replaced by a message broadcast to the galaxy. Earth's victory had been declared. The galaxy had finally witnessed the power of humanity, not just as survivors, but as creators of their own destiny. As the message spread across the stars, factions that had once bowed to the Council began to stand tall, ready to chart their own futures. The Council's last remnants were swept aside, and with their downfall came the rise of a new era. No longer would the galaxy be bound by the rule of a few. It was a time of cooperation, understanding, and shared power among the many. Earth had claimed its victory, not through sheer military force, but through ingenuity, unity, and the indomitable will to shape its own future. Leela stood before the broken leaders of the Council, and for the first time, she allowed herself to feel the weight of the victory. They had done it. Earth had won. But more than that, humanity had become a force that could no longer be ignored. The stars above now belonged to everyone. And in that moment, the galaxy knew that its future would never be the same.